Good evening to you, and thanks for being here on this Sunday night. I'm Regina An. Well, tomorrow is a big day for Washington counties. Tomorrow, each county's coronavirus metrics will be measured, which will determine if the county stays in phase 3 or moves back to phase 2. Now, ahead of the evaluation, Governor Inslee loosened the criteria for moving phases. Now, the only way to move back a phase would be if a county fails 2 metrics, that is COVID case counts and hospitalizations. If a county is failing one of the 2 metrics, they can still remain in their current phase. Before Inslee's change, counties needed to meet both to remain in their current phase. It just gives more counties a chance to stay where they are instead of moving backwards. However, if a health district is concerned with that county's numbers, they can make the decision to move the county back a phase. So let's take a look right now. All counties in Washington are in phase 3 of reopening, but there are several counties at risk of moving back to phase 2. As you can see on the map, the counties in green are meeting the requirements and the counties in red are not. We'll know for sure tomorrow if those counties have to move back a phase. More Washingtonians will be eligible to get the vaccine starting this Thursday. The governor announced those 16 and older will be eligible for the shot starting on April 15th. That's almost 2 weeks earlier than projected. Now there are a variety of places offering the COVID vaccine, including CVS, Multicare, Providence, and more. We want to be sure to get all the answers to the questions that you have. So for the latest information regarding the coronavirus vaccine here in the Inland Northwest, just text the word vaccine to that number right there, 509-448-2000. We do have some breaking news right now. 1 person dead and 2 others injured, including a child, following an incident in North Spokane. Our Brandon T. Jones was there and has the very latest now.
Well, I just got done speaking with officers not too long ago, and what happened here at North Adams and Queen is without a doubt a tragedy. The fire department responded a little bit earlier today due to a car stuck in the garage. They got into the garage and they discovered a male who was unconscious and halfway conscious at the same time. They also discovered a woman who was deceased and had serious injuries to her body. They found a 5-year-old child as well who had life-threatening injuries, and that child was transported to the hospital and has undergone surgery, but a status of that child is still to be determined. They did tell me this road will be closed down for the next few hours, but one of the main takeaways is that they don't believe there is a severe threat to the public. They have the male who was found unconscious in police custody. He was transported to the hospital as well. But like I said, this isn't a threat to the immediate public, and then officers will be investigating for the next few hours. Regina.
Okay, Brandon, thank you for that update. Well, if you commute on Interstate 90 through Spokane, you're going to see some changes along the corridor next week. Starting on Tuesday, 5 more newly installed ramp meters will go live in the morning and afternoon. KREM 2's Amanda Rowley explains how they work and why they are expected to make I-90 much safer.
Amanda, what's that?
Those are the stoplights for the new ramp meters as you get onto I-90.
Is Hamilton the only one?
Actually, no. There's one already live at where Highway 195 merges onto I-90, but actually starting next week, 5 more new ones like the Hamilton one will go live. Here, let me explain what they look like. Not all 5 new ramp meters will activate on the same day. WashDOT is using a phased approach to turn them on each day. On Tuesday, the Walnut Street and Monroe Street eastbound ramp meters will be the first to go live. Then, in the following days, ramp meters at Brown and Division eastbound, Hamilton eastbound, and westbound for Brown and Division will go live. Each ramp meter will release vehicles onto the interstate in either 1 or 2 lanes. For example, the Walnut eastbound on-ramp is 2 lanes. As each vehicle approaches the stoplight on the ramp, they must stop on the line until the light turns green. Then, 1 car from each lane can accelerate, merging onto eastbound I-90 at the same time. The same goes for the Division eastbound ramp meter. But at the westbound Division on-ramp, drivers will form a single lane. There, the ramp meter will release 2 vehicles per green light. Drivers will also form a single lane at the Monroe Street eastbound on-ramp, but this ramp meter will release 1 vehicle per green light onto I-90.
The reason why the DOT chose to put in ramp meters is not primarily for congestion, but it's because this corridor from the top of the Sunset Hill at US 2 to Broadway was identified as a high collision corridor. So a lot more accidents than what is anticipated for a corridor of similar type.
The ramp meter at Highway 195 merging onto I-90 went active 2 years ago. It is already successfully reducing collisions in that area. WSDOT compared collision data from 18 months before it went live and 18 months after.
And what we saw is a 69% reduction in collisions with folks getting on to eastbound I-90. But what is more telling is that in that time frame, we went from 7 serious injury collisions 18 months before to 0 after. And that's really the telling part.
He adds, we can expect more ramp meters installed in Spokane over the next 2 years. For more on what you need to know about the ramp meters activating next week, text the word WSDOT to the number 509-448-2000. Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
All right, looking at weather now, certainly very cold out there this morning, but the sun's out and it's still pretty chilly. But Michelle Boss kind of tracking a little bit of a warmer temperatures coming this week, right?
Yes, we do have a warm up on the way for this week, but we have a couple of things we have to get through before we can see that. Of course, we had the chilly temperatures this morning. In fact, we broke the record low, which was previously 24. So back in 1983, we dropped down to 23 this morning at the Spokane airport. But look at Coeur d'Alene and Deer Park, 20 in Coeur d'Alene, 15 in Deer Park, and well below freezing in Moses and Sandpoint as well. Current temperatures aren't particularly warm either. We didn't even break 50 degrees this afternoon. Currently sitting at 48 in Spokane, only 46 in Sandpoint. Still a little bit better across central Washington. Upper 50s in Moses Lake, Othello, mid 50s in Omak. Winds have not been an issue today, but they will be an issue for much of this upcoming week, especially Monday night into Tuesday, where we could see persistently strong winds, wind gusts of 40 to 45 miles per hour, which do have the potential for reducing visibilities due to blowing dust and also some wind damage and power outages with this particular storm system. Satellite and radar showing pretty quiet conditions now, though. We've had plenty of sunshine this afternoon. Any afternoon clouds will be dissipating as the sun sets. Looking at a chilly start to Monday, 27 degrees with a high of 54, and then it turns windy for Tuesday with mostly sunny skies, 55 for the high. Continued breezy on Wednesday with highs near 60.
Michelle, thank you. Standardized testing for students would normally be happening this spring in full force. Christine Pei with our sister station in Seattle shows us the push to ease some of those requirements and the hurdles the state superintendent is facing.
The superintendent's office understands the need for some federal assessment testing, especially this year, to measure how kids have been doing after a year of COVID and remote learning. However, Washington state school officials are hoping for some modifications, a waiver on some of those federal requirements, something the superintendent says has been met with some resistance by the U.S. Department of Education.
This is the one that just didn't make sense in a COVID year with so many remote students to haul them in for testing.
In a typical year, about 700,000 public school students in Washington undergo federal assessment testing in the spring, but this year has hardly been typical. Superintendent Chris Rakedahl is asking 50,000 kids rather than 700,000 go through the standardized testing.
And not test every student in every subject. And so far, we're meeting some resistance on that.
School assessment testing can be expensive and time-consuming. OSPI says $425 million in Washington taxpayer money went to federally mandated school testing in the last 10 years alone, and 4.7 million hours dedicated to test prep annually. Rakedahl says the U.S. Department of Education has granted a separate waiver concerning accountability, which puts less pressure on scoring individual school districts.
All of the stuff states do on the accountability side, they've said you don't have to do that. So then the question is, then why are we trying to test 700,000 kids in our state over multiple subjects in the most mental health draining year we've ever had for kids?
Rakedahl, meanwhile, hopes their concerns will be answered.
The message has been pretty clearly, just test everyone this year if you can, and then we'll rethink innovation in the future. We think the time to innovate is right now.